Well, a very good morning to you all, and thanks to Sister here for the introduction. And I'm very happy to be here this morning because it has been some time since I gave the last talk here in Brickfield. So this morning subject, the importance of joy and happiness in spiritual progress. Now this subject is quite appropriate because quite often there are those who come up to me and he says, why is Buddhism so sad and pessimistic? Cannot do this, cannot do that, cannot organize dancing class in the temple. Christian, they have that, parties and so forth. Cannot do this, cannot do that. You say, what lah, Buddhism joyless lah. What you always think about is dukkha. Suffering, you see. You say, I want to have joy in life, not suffering. So not suitable. Say, I better go to other religion, perhaps Christianity. You even have Cliff Richard there singing in the chapel. Here we don't have Cliff Richard. Now, this topic, this joy and happiness, in fact, it is essential as we progress into enlightenment, spiritual progress. Even then, in the beginning we need joy as well. We need to have a pleasurable interest. Now, if we do not have that joy, that interest, then we would, in the first place, not come here tonight, this morning. We have that interest, even though the joy may be quite oblivious. It's a different degree of joy, and so it is not that joyful, not that joyful that you experience coming here this morning. So I'll bring up, if I've just now said that various degree of joy and happiness. There are various degrees. There are subtle one and there are gross one. So I'll bring out maybe some example of the subtle one, which I myself experienced. Now, in following the Dharma, the way, it would be nice that we experience the Dharma rather than just listening to the Dhamma. Now, if you experience the Dhamma, then you find the Dhamma very meaningful. You find the Dhamma very dynamic, a part of life itself, rather than just listening to the Dhamma and after that forget. Once you leave the hall, forget about it, come next Sunday again. But if you apply that, if you see reality in daily life, then you feel a part of it. And then Dhamma becomes very meaningful. Now some example that I have, let's say, experienced regarding this joy. Now let's say, now, simple one, the first one, come with the first one. Let's say my family is a so-called Buddhist, like perhaps you also, your family also is a so-called Buddhist. In name only, not in action. Even when I was young, my father would call us, whenever early in the morning, when he starts to pray, and he will call all of us, thank you. He called all of us and he said, Tiam hio, take the joystick and pray. Then I would ask my father, pray what? Don't talk too much, Buddhists must pray. Don't talk too much, must pray. If you don't pray, I'm not a Buddhist. So I'm brought up to understand praying to all these Tei Chu Gong, I think, yes. Tei Chu Gong Zhao Ang Gong, and then Ti Gong, and then Chu Zhang Gong, whatever call Bui Gong. Then I was quite complex for a long time what Bui Gong is, where you pray near the drain. Quite complex that is a god, So he's superstitious, he won't tell me. You pray, Buddhists must pray, that's all. Now, so-called Buddhists, so that's why I became a Christian. Because there is something there that I can understand and learn. I can't learn anything from my father. Now later I became a Buddhist. Well, not a so-called Buddhist, but a practicing Buddhist, knowing the Eightfold Path and so forth. So I tried to convince my father the proper way, the Eightfold Path way, doing Buddhist practices. But it was extremely difficult. So he would say, when I pray, you never start praying yet. So how could you know more than me? So it's always like that. And I would spend long time talking to him, and he ha, but never gets in, just to oblige me, that's all. And so finally one day I managed to convince him to perform dana, to perform dana in the time I was in Penang meditation center. So, well, he sort of agreed. So I was so happy that finally, out of so many years, at last he agreed. So it was I who do most of the part. Go around buying things, this and that, get everything ready, he just watch. And that is enough for a start. So managed to get him to the temple, managed to get him to Thambun, give some rice to the monk and all that. And then it was such a joyful occasion. And people look at me, he say, Brother James. They look at my father, he say, Uncle. Then he say, how did you manage that? I said, not easy. Not easy. But it was full of joy. And even after the dana, after the performing of the dana, my whole day was full of joy. Because I've done something very difficult to do, influencing my father to perform dana. That is the first step, dana, charity, giving, services. Now there is this joy in life. There is this joy that you experience. And you must note them, you must be aware of them, that these are joy. Now, if you don't note the joy, then you think that Buddhism is so dull. After some time, you drifted away from Buddhism. Why? You find it's not joyful. Because you do not notice the joy when it arises. Now, so there we have joy. It's not as pessimistic as what people say. There is joy there. In dana, in services. Now perhaps I go to the second experience. But now I was in Kuala Lumpur and I was with a friend in a car, and he goes to the bank morning, and the bank there's no parking space there, so he asked me, Brother Jim, you please sit in the car. Wait for me. I'll go inside the bank and come out. So I was patiently sitting in the car, rising, falling. Why? Because it was so hot. If you don't do that, you will get angry. So you change of object, you divert your mind. Get your mind absorbed in another object. And so you won't have anger. Very wonderful is Buddhism. And so I was doing my rising, falling, and was in the car. There was a no parking place, so was parking beside the road. And then I was doing that, I suddenly, after some time, noticed a blind person who was on the other side, waiting very patiently to cross over to my side. But the traffic was very dense, because it was a bank area, a lot of cars and speeding and a lot of bad-tempered people and all that, driving very fast. So I observed him, and I come to the conclusion, must be he wants to come across. So I left my car, take the risk even though there's no parking there, look around, no policemen, must have some wisdom also. Look around, no policemen around. So I left the car, went over to the other side. I catch hold of the blind person. I say, are you going over to the other side? Can I help? And then he said, yes. I'm going over to the other side. And so I slowly took him across. And then he asked me, you are selling ice water around here? So I was wondering why he asked me that. I said, no, I'm not selling ice water. He said, oh, I thought you were because your palm was very wet. So must be selling ice water. So I said, no, I wasn't selling ice water. So I took him across and thankfully went inside the car and then I sat in there. Then there was this joy that keep on arising. This joy, just by itself. Sometimes joy arises, need a lot of prompting, need to induce it to arise. Sometimes you need no inducing, just coming up like that. You don't have to think about it to get joy. It just come up like that, spontaneous, very strong. I was smiling, and my friend came out, and I didn't notice him. He looked at me. He said, what's so funny? I said, nothing is funny. He said, you're smiling like a clown. Something must be very funny. I said, no, not funny at all. It's a pleasure, so much joy. And the whole day I go on with my job with a lot of joy. Even when people scold me, also a lot of joy. Like that, so joyful, so joyful. And I take note of my mind and I say, this is indeed joy. This is indeed happiness. This abundance of it, and it keeps on coming up. Now, so you get joy. You have joy in the performing of dana services. Now then, perhaps there is one thing I like to bring up again, that even giving Dhamma talks, there's a lot of joy. Not only I get the joy, sometimes you get the joy as well. Sometimes you're so happy when you listen to joy. And even when you go home also you think about something very funny Brother James said. You still have that joy. It may be funny, but it must be Dhamma. Don't say anything funny that is not Dhamma. And don't say obscene jokes. Not allowed here. In Dhamma talk. So, sometimes after Dhamma talks, I feel a sense of joy. A deep sense of happiness. Deep sense of happiness that indeed I have done something useful in life. Otherwise, a lot of time in life we never do anything useful. We never do think any useful at all. Like when I was in Yellow Star and they tell me that, Brother James, why must I attend meditation course? Give me one good reason. Say like that. They say I'm a good person. I never kill, I never steal. I don't set fire to people's houses. I don't rob them. Why must I meditate? I'm a good fellow, he says. So I say, are you a good fellow? So I ask you, every morning when you wake up, do your thoughts arise and say, who am I going to help this morning? Did it arise? Or what am I going to, any good things that I can do this morning? or I am going to keep my sila, my precept, or this morning I better meditate. No, usually early in the morning we wake up, you say one more day, another day of traffic and fighting the traffic and going to work and see your boss with long faces. You don't like your colleague because he's very queer. Life is a merry-go-round. It repeats itself every morning. You wake up and you say, one more day. You have to tuck through them again. Now I say, are you doing anything good? After long contemplation, he finally say, yeah, I will join your meditation class. Like that. Now it is joyful, sometimes even listening to Dhamma, or giving Dhamma talks or Dhamma discussion. It is joyful. It's very joyful. But of course, sometimes you look around, people, maybe a meditation in the center, meditation center, like Penang Meditation Center, there are always comments that they don't really look joyful at all. When they meditate, the face very long. Like that, You talk to him also, he didn't hear you. Like that, Eat also very slow, no enjoyment of food. Like that, you're not supposed to enjoy, no music, nothing else. A lot of suffering, a lot of pain. Yes, so it gives sometimes, when you look only at the surface, you get very delusion. Now let's talk something about sila, morals. Now how does joy arises if we keep sila, if we have morality? Now we must recognize such type of joy, and only when we recognize them, we recognize that there are joy in such things, that the mind goes towards it. Now if we do not recognize that these things are joyful, then the mind does not go towards it. The mind goes to something else. Now you find delight in playing mahjong, then you can eat also boing, no time for eating, jamban also no time. You see somebody from morning to night, night to morning again, marathon. And he say, I am champion. I say, why? He say, non-stop 3 days. Delight in there. There's this delight in there. Although a lot of anger also arises. We see, all these things, why you never take this, you give this. But then a lot of joy involved there. And you see people are going fishing, sitting under the hot sun. I was one of them when I was young. I was a Christian, and so these things are for us to eat. Christian says, God created all these for our consumption, so no sin. So every day go fishing. And under the hot sun, it was like a really fantastic, the heat. But you sit there very quietly, catching hold of the string, very mindfully. I don't call that mindfully. Mindfully is wholesome, this is unwholesome. With a lot of craving, hoping for a big fish. Like that. Enjoy. It gives a lot of delight. And whenever my father say, fishing, wow, jump out. Very nice, no more school, go fishing. Like that. So the joy, it keeps our mind there. Keeps us working for hours and hours and hours. If we fish as well as we meditate, we will become enlightened very fast. Or if we play mahjong as well as we meditate, we will get enlightenment very fast. There's a lot of delight there. And he thinks no delight here. So let's say sila. I give you some of my experiences. It may be simple one. You may have experienced it yourself, but you are not aware. So let's say non-killing. Non-killing. Well, one day I was in the house and there was this butterfly wanting to get out. Morning he gets in and
At night he gets in, morning he wants out. So he was flapping and knocking against the wall, no way out, because the window was all locked. So I look at the butterfly, contemplate, and of course I know he wants to get out. And so I open up all the window, and finally he finds a way out, and he flaps his wings and fly off. Now such simple action. As I watched the butterfly going through the window, there was this joy arises in me. This joy to see it fly away unharmed. Perhaps you think that the butterfly will be very happy flying out. That's what he wants. Such simple action of non-killing, non-causing harm to the butterflies, it gives us joy. Then when I look into my mind, I find that there was joy there. Or let's say non-stealing. Sometimes you buy something and then they give you change. So one day I bought something and I gave $1, and then he gave me $9 something back. And I look at the money and I say, alamak. One word alamak, another the intention to put into the pocket. And as I stand there stunted and looking at the money, it is not much, but when you are young, it is a lot. Look at that, and finally I took pity on that person. You see, if I were to take the money, he would have to pay out from his own pocket. And he doesn't get much, I suppose. His salary is not much. So I gave back the money. He looks at me and say, why are you doing that? I say, overchange. He say, oh, overchange. Then he comes to smile. At first very stern. Now he smile, I smile. So I walk away. I was very happy, feeling a lot of joy, non-stealing. You do not take something that does not belong to you. Then there was this joy. Now we talk about perhaps simple type of joy. Simple type of joy. We go on perhaps to something more heavy. Heavy type of joy that you experience perhaps sometime through concentration, through paying attention, concentrate your mind. Like there was one boy who, after listening to my Dhamma talks, the hairs always stand on end. Like that, standing up, goose pimple, we call it sometimes. One day he approached me and said, Brother James, am I abnormal? I say, you look very normal to me. I'm thinking perhaps it is half-half. I say, no, you look very normal to me. He said, every time I listen to the Dhamma talk, my hair stand on ends. Like that, all the hair stand up. I said, that is joy. So it is very normal, don't worry. Joy. He gets a lot of joy when he listens to the Dhammas. So the hairs all stand in ends. But if it stand at different end, when you have fear, it's a different thing. That is a different standing. So this one is joy. Now let's say the various type of joy, let's go to with a little bit of concentration. We have a different form of joy, perhaps a deeper type of joy. More intense in feelings. Now there is one that we have the coolness of body. Coolness of body. Now as you meditate or as the mind becomes very calm, as you have no worries, as you sit and becomes very quiet, there are those who experience a coolness of body, who feel not really the shaking type of cold, the coolness. They feel very cool and very nice and very joyful. Now there is this type of joy, but it is not very difficult to acquire. A lot of people have it, meditators have it, so it's quite common. Now perhaps we have let's say, a more intense form. Now we have another coolness of body where it is like you're sitting and near the seashore and you have this cool breeze, when the wave hits the shore, and then early in the morning you sit by the shore, seashore, and you have this breeze from the foot, it goes up to your body and to your forehead, and it keeps coming and non-stop. Very cool sensation and very, very pleasing. Very pleasing and joyful. And you say to yourself, hey, this is wonderful, how I wish I have this forever. But you cannot have it forever. All things comes to an end, good or bad. So there is this type of coolness you experience. Now perhaps we have a more intense one. We have prevailing joy. A type of joy where it's like you sit under a waterfall and the water rushes through from the head down and your whole body immersed in the water. Every part of your body is so cool. Or it is like cotton wool immersed in water. Every part of the cotton wool is in water. And the sense of bliss, happiness, the sense of joy is immense. Very, very joyful. In other words, you have to experience it to understand. It is sometimes we call it not worldly, it is unworldly. This type of joy, perhaps the devas experience such type of joy. Very, very joyful type of sensation. Now, likeness of body, meditators experience it. It's very joyful. The whole body becomes light. Perhaps this type you experience, but not as a meditator. You experience this lightness when you have intense joy. Perhaps you met with a very handsome boy. Wow, walking on air like that, like flying. Or you meet with a beautiful girl, very nice, intense joy. Or you strike first prize lottery. Food also don't want to eat. When you walk that time, wow, floating on air. Now it is like this, like an air, like a piece of paper blown by the wind. Very light, very joyful. Whole day you don't eat, also very nice, don't care. We call it deva joy. So in heaven, where the devas, they have such type of joy that they forget to eat. So if they forget to eat after some time, they die, they pass off and reborn again. One of the cause of devas passing away, one of the cause is not taking of food. So joyful that they don't feel hungry. Wow, everywhere they look, everything is beautiful. It's like a person who delights in art, he looks at all the fantastic, beautiful arts and he was so absorbed, he can be there whole day or 2 days. Like my friend, he told me he went to Walt Disney in California and he could be there the whole day and yet not feel hungry and not enough. Must go the next day, he said. So the joy is there. So joyful that he is not hungry. So some devas, they pass away. Due to what? Not taking of food, perhaps. Due to anger, intense anger, pass away. Due to karma, end of karma, time's up, has to pass away, and so forth. Now, so these are likeness, let's say, likeness of body. Now, if in meditation it is developed, that likeness is developed, it turns into levitation, begins to float. Now, that is also a form of joy. In Pali, we say piti, P-I-T-I, joy, so light that it actually floats. actually float out. So it is not a psychic power, it is joy. Not psychic power, it is joy. Now even more wonderful than likeness of body is developed than mere floating. It has this transporting joy. Now in these sutras, I will bring up these sutras in the Visuddhimagga, the path of purity. Now you have this lady by the name of a daughter of noble family in Huat, Kalaka village. So one day the Buddha came to this place, and this lady was staying nearby, and the Buddha resided in the forest, and her house was nearby, and she was, let's say, written here something like she was pregnant. She was pregnant, and so the mother and father says that you are heavy laden, so you should not go. We will go there and listen, and perhaps the merits will be transferred to you. So you don't have to go. And so, being the father, that's father-in-law and mother-in-law, so being obedient, so she didn't go. And as she was pacing up and down in the courtyard, she could hear the chanting, the monks chanting, and there were bright lights on the other side, were very bright lights. And as she was walking up and down, contemplating, as she was thinking about the Buddha, blessed indeed must be those who can get to the monastery and walk in such a courtyard and hear such sweet religious discourse. And to her, looking at the shrine, rising like a mass of pearls, arose transporting rapture. Now as she looks at the shrine, there is this intense joy. First comes the lightness, comes the floating sensation, comes the transporting sensation. She was up there in the air, she was traveling towards the Buddha's place. And as she came down, landed, she sat there. Who is possessed by faith, puts forth effort, who sets up mindfulness, who concentrates his mind through understanding, who comprehends what is to be comprehended, who puts away what is to be put away, who develops what is to be developed, who realizes what is to be realized. Thus is joy experience. Perhaps you say, wow, so long, so difficult. Perhaps we go a little bit on why, but one by one. Now rapture is experienced by those who have faith, by those. So you can say that faith is important. Faith is important. Even though we stretch on confidence, sattha in Pali, confidence is that you gain it as you listen to the Dhamma, you analyze and you practice it. The more you do it, the more confidence there is. As you experience reality, the confidence is built up, or faith is built up. But then again, in the beginning, you need to have faith. Otherwise, in the first place, you would not be here this morning. Now, joy arises through faith. Now, sometimes even in the Christians, they have a lot of faith. Perhaps that is only what they have, faith and nothing else. Faith in God. And they can also have a lot of joy as they contemplate about God. So they do have faith, a great amount of faith. And perhaps in the Chinese traditions, we call it the Mahayanese traditions, they have a lot of faith. Perhaps I would think more of them. Why do they have more faith? Because they develop them. They stretch on them. They practice on them. Whereas in the Theravada traditions, now we are the Theravada traditions, we stretch more on intelligence, stretch more on wisdom all the time, nothing but wisdom. But they stretch on faith. 3 step, 1 bow, you look at them, you say, so stupid. So they stretch on that. They can 3 step, 1 bow, or they can up and down, and prostrate. So sometimes they say, Brother James, you see how stupid they are. They stand up and then pop the whole hand straight and then pop down on the floor. And what happened? A lot of them have ants hill on the forehead. If you're not careful, like that, you got one up. But still they do it. They still do it like that. Until you look at and you know they are this type. Like that. And then there are comments, see how stupid the fellow is. How stupid. I say, don't say they are stupid. They are one who is faithful, have a lot of faith in the Buddha, and they get a lot of joy through faith. Get a lot of joy arises through faith. So through joy, faith through joy. Now if you have faith in the Buddha, there will be joy arises. As you contemplate on the virtue of the Buddha, as you contemplate, the more you contemplate, the more you respect the Buddha. More you respect the Buddha, the more you have joy arising. Respecting the Buddha, the virtue that he who has passed, who has gone across, he who has developed purity. As you look into ourselves, we find still a lot of defilement, greed, hatred, delusion, and jealousy, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. But lots of these defilements still existing in our mind. Now as we contemplate on one who is totally free from such things, that is not easy. He is indeed a teacher, surpasses men and gods, a teacher of gods and men. Now as you contemplate and as you develop faith in the Buddha, there will arise lots and lots of joy. By having faith, we go in other steps. We develop Dharma, faith in the Dharma as well. Now sometimes here, developing faith in the way, the Eightfold Path, perhaps in the Chinese traditions, they are not so particular in the Eightfold Path. They are more particular in faith in the Buddha. Or sometimes they say Amitabha Buddha. So what they do is, even when I came back 2 days ago from Elostar, there was this Mahayanese lecturer who gives talk, who is a Mahayanese. He heard that I was there in Elostar and he came and see me and he say, Brother James, you answer me now. I say, what do you want me to answer? He said, tell me, is there this Kelok Sekai, Pure Land? Tell me, is there this Kelok Sekai? I said, don't get so excited, sit down slowly. He said, he must know the truth. So one must be true, whether there is or there is not. There cannot be, there is and not. Cannot. So if there is, then it is not. If it is not, it is. So there must be, cannot have both. So like that. So I say, you sit down, don't get excited. So they are of this tradition, Kelok Sekai, by just going over and over again the name of Amitabha Buddha. They will be born in the Pure Land school. They will be born in the Pure Land, not school, Pure Land. In heaven, Pure Land. So they have no Eightfold Path. What they have important is Amitabha Buddha. So there is no faith in the way taught by the Buddha, the Eightfold Path, the way towards salvation. So they are missing the path. So the path needs also to have faith in, to develop faith in the path. Now only when you have faith in the path, there is joy arising when we practice the path. as you practice early in the morning, as I reflect on my virtue, as I reflect, I'm keeping the 8 precepts. I'm keeping the 5 precepts. There is immense joy arises because precept is not easy to keep. And before I go to bed, as I reflect the precept, and I go over them one by one, as I think to myself, did I do any killing today? No. Did I do any stealing today? No. Did I do any sexual misconduct? No. Lying? No. Intoxicant? No. Then I contemplate. I am pure in my precept. Now as I prompt the mind, induce the mind, go over in the mind, recollect in the mind, joy arises that indeed today I am pure in my precept. It is indeed hard to keep precepts, very, very difficult to keep precepts. Now if you are even able to keep precept for 1 day, for half a day, for a quarter of a day, or 1/8 of a day, or every second of the day, indeed joy will arise. You have done something most difficult to do. So in other words, when you reflect on the way that you have practiced the way, the precept being taught, joy arises. Now that is one way of strengthening your precept. Precept is very important. Now if you recollect the precepts will be strong. If you do not recollect the precept will be weak. It will have no chance to arise during your last thought moment. Why? Because there is no reflection on it. Like a person who is in jail, behind bars, and they ask me this question, Brother Jim, you see the prisoner locked up in jail must be very pure, No chance to scold people, no chance to lie, no chance to steal, kill, no chance for sexual misconduct. But in America, now they have. But mostly no. No chance for drugs, but sometimes they have. They bribe the caretaker. But Malaysian jail, I suppose, not so easy to buy. So if they don't have the opportunity to come into contact or to break them, they must be pure. I say no. Why? Because they are not keeping it. They are not keeping it. They are not reflecting it. They are not aware of it. They are not keeping it. Therefore, they are not strong. So when they come out of the jail, they will repeat breaking the precept. They will continue on breaking the precept. If they are killers, they may be induced to kill again. If they are drugs takers, they may be induced to take drugs again. Why? Because the precepts are not kept. So it is important to reflect early in the morning. Reflect on the 5 precepts. Perhaps you do it 3 times a day for a start. Say, okay, morning, afternoon, when you're free, lunchtime, and before you go to bed. Now I go one further than that. I contemplate on death, which is the way being taught in the concentration practice. As I lay down and sleep, I do my rising and falling, and then I contemplate, tonight I may die, I may pass away tonight. Now as I contemplate on death, as I contemplate before death that I am pure in sila, and contemplate on death, joy arises in me. It is indeed, I have done what is necessary. In other words, in life I have done something meaningful. I have contributed towards society. I don't do it just for myself. I have contributed according to my ability to do it. Like I'm going around giving Dhamma talks, I go around teaching meditation, I practice meditation, I practice my sila, I practice meditation myself. So I have done what I can. So with that thought, even if I die, I will die in peace. I will die without fear. I will die in peace. Now, as we recollect the Dhamma, as we practice the Dhamma, there are moments and moments where we experience lots and lots of joy. We experience a lot of peace, calmness of mind, and therefore, at times, or many times, joy arises in the way, in the path, in the Eightfold Path. Now perhaps we have faith in the Sangha. When we talk about the Sangha, we talk about the holy disciples of the Buddha, those who have realized first path, second path, third path, and fully enlightened, the Arahants. So when we develop faith in the Sangha, we should not develop faith in monks, worldly monks. I do not say we must not respect the monk. No, in fact, when we respect the monks, we contemplate that they are the Sangha of the Buddha, the worldly Sangha. So we need to respect them. Sometimes they say, look at this monk, he's doing something wrong, that wrong. So how can I respect him? How can I do dana to him? I say, no, you must contemplate. When you do dana, think of the holy Sangha. Then you will get lots of merits. Do not contemplate on his failings or his mistake. Now if you do that, then you get delusion. Then you say, nonsense, I don't want to do dana. Where got this holiness? No holiness around. So when you really practice faith, you must practice faith in those who is perfect, holy Sangha. Then your faith will not waver. It will be very strong. Very strong. Sometimes, even though I am a meditation teacher, they make a lot of mistakes by putting 100% faith in me. And I used to tell them, no, don't put the faith in me 100%. You must have some faith, otherwise you won't practice through me. Or have a chance to practice through any teacher. Some faith, but not all faith. Now if you have practiced, put all your faith in me, and one day, you may see Brother James start to smoke, collapse. The whole faith collapse. Say, nonsense. I have been following blindly all the time. Brother James is not the way. Brother James is not Eightfold Path. The path is there. Even though I smoke, the path is still there. In its purity, it is still there. Sila, Samadhi, Panya is still there. Morality, concentration, and penetration is still there. What I do is what I do. What the path is what the path is. So it is two different things. Two different things. So as you put your faith, it must be in the holy disciple of the Buddha. Now let's continue again. Now one who is possessed by faith, one who puts forth effort. So in order to have joy, we need effort. Now what effort must we put forth? To bring the mind towards samadhi, bring the mind towards the path, to bring the mind towards joy, towards calmness. Now we need effort. Now if we don't have put any effort, there will not be joy, intense joy arising. The joy that would induce us to continue and penetrate deeper towards the way. It will induce us, it will encourage us. That, there is this joy there in this practice. Now when there is this joy there, we will learn to meditate. We will want to follow the path when there is this joy. Now a very simple example. A lot of people listen to speaker, even though speaker is not easy to come by, but yet they choose. It is like choosing film star. When you go to see show, who is the speaker today? Brother Victor V. Very good lah, must come. Like that. Like when they talk about Reverend Namananda coming to Elustar. Some don't know. Who is Reverend Namananda? Never heard? Fantastic monk, very good speaker. Yeah, must come, because being introduced of the actor. Like that, eh? And if somebody say, this fella, bo mia siya, ay bo eng tak hang not free tak hang like that, eh? So it is like that, because he say, wow, very joyful when he give talks, when he talk about Reverend Suwano, ayo, very nice when he talk like Joe here. Can see action also. All will come in abundance because there is joy. There is joy arising. You no need to hear, you look at him, joy already. Like that, joy. And the joy brings him there. A joy will bring us there. Wherever there is joy, we will be there. The joy. The joy is the inducement. Now if we understand that in Buddhism there are various types of joy that you can get. Buddhism is not pessimistic. Buddhism is not suffering all the time. So don't make the mistake. Whenever a newcomer comes, you say, I will teach you about suffering. You say, I have enough of it, thank you. Enough already, you say. This is the wrong religion. This religion, something wrong somewhere. You say, I have enough of suffering already. Better become Christian. So the joy is the inducement. Only when we understand that there are such joy, there are joy indeed in the Dhamma, in the way, then the mind will attuned, will be induced towards the Dhamma. Otherwise, after some time, our mind gets very lazy. Why? No joy there. The mind gets very couldn't care less attitude, becomes numb, lose of faith, no more faith there, and then slowly we drift off from the path. Instead of the Dhamma, we start to do the Adhamma, the wrong path. We start doing all those things that are not the true way. So we have the effort here, which is necessary. The effort to induce our mind, to prompt our mind, to direct our mind, to train our mind, to bring our mind towards that which produces joy, produces calmness, produces enlightenment. Now mindfulness, again the Buddha says, rapture is experienced by one who sets up mindfulness, awareness, watchfulness. Now what is this mindfulness? The mindfulness of reality, nama rupa, mind and body. So what is the purpose of mindfulness? The mindfulness is the looking inwards, the inwards journey, trying to understand of what this mind and body is all about. What is this mind? Mind means nama. What is this body? Body means rupa. Nama rupa. What is this nama rupa? What is this thing? What is this I? That sometimes we are so happy, sometimes so sad, sometimes so full of wisdom, and at times so delusion and confused. Now what is this thing? How does it work? Why should it work? Now that is setting up mindfulness. As we set up our mindfulness, develop mindfulness, we become more aware of reality. We become more aware of its coming and going. The coming of things in our mind, the going of things in the mind. Now as we understand them, we are able to let go of those things that produces suffering, those things that produces confusion, those things that produces sadness, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. A whole mass of these negative things that agitates our mind, that depresses our mind. The one who has set up mindfulness is joyful everywhere. Anywhere he is,
he experienced joy. Why? Because he does not build up his mind with sadness, he built up his mind with joy. Now again the Buddha continue on, rapture is experienced by one who concentrates his mind. Now what do we mean by concentrate his mind? Now, when we concentrate our mind, instead of concentrate into something that produces unwholesomeness, depression, something that produces anxiety and fear and confusion, we should concentrate on things that produces calmness, joy, peace, serenity, happiness. Now that is called right concentration. Now in this right concentration, we say, how do we go about it? We must develop initial application of mind. We must direct our mind initially. We must change our mind. The habitual mind of constantly harping on things that produces unhappiness, we must change it, our mind, to dwell on things that produces joy. So initial application, when we do meditation, we have an object. Now let's say we have the four foundation of mindfulness and we practice the object of rising and falling. So initially we apply the mind towards the movement of rising and falling. That is called initial. But the mind goes away. It take note and bring it back. It take note and bring it back. Now as you keep on practicing initial application, the mind will stay, and it is called sustained application. It will stay there. It will not run away. It will stay there with the object rising and falling. Now as the mind sustains in the object, there arises no unwholesomeness, no defilement. There arises no fear. There arises no hallucination. There arises no confusion. All those lamentations, pain, grief, despair. Now as the negative states of mind are being suppressed, there arises the wholesome states of mind. As the mind becomes tranquil, joy arises. Now as joy becomes intensified, happiness arises. Now as happiness becomes steadfast, as the mind experiences happiness, the mind becomes concentrated. The mind stays there in the rise and fall. We call it one-pointedness of mind. Now so you can see the importance in joy and happiness. As we progress deeper into the states of jhanas, mental absorption, the extreme purity of mind, or as we spiritually progress into enlightenment, joy and happiness is essential. Very, very essential. Without joy and happiness, in the beginning, to bring us step by step into the final intensity of it, we will not arise at enlightenment. In other words, without joy and happiness, there will be no enlightenment. So you can see the importance in joy and happiness. So if somebody were to say that Buddhism is nothing but dukkha, suffering, then it is wrong, because Buddhism encourages, promotes, teaches, and lead the way towards joy and happiness. As you go through the path of purity, the Buddha stretches the way towards joy, initially, middly, and finally towards the end, that is joy. Now then, concentration We come to the last, which the Buddha again say, rapture is experienced by one who comprehends what is to be comprehended, who puts away what is to be put away, who develops what is to be developed, who realizes what is to be realized. Thus is joy experienced. Now finally, we come to the end, we comprehend what is to be comprehended, what is necessary. We see things as they are. We actualize reality, or we penetrate reality. So, in other words, we comprehend what is to be comprehended. We put away what is to be put away. We have put away greed, hatred, and delusion. We have put away all negative things in our mind, like fear, rites and rituals, doubts. We have put away everything that is negative. We develop what is to be developed. We have developed wisdom. We have realized reality. We have realization. Realize what the world is all about. Its beginning and its end. And finally comes the immense joy of liberation. Now this immense joy of liberation, which people sometimes misunderstood. They say, Brother Jim, what happened when a person become arahant? He become Chao Tao. No more feeling. Because no more feeling, cut away already. Joy also cannot have dancing, cannot have music, cannot have satay also cannot have. Enjoy satay also cannot. Everything cannot already. No more enjoyment. So what is left? Chao Tao? No. So what is left is a lot of joy and happiness. What is cut off is those joy that is unwholesome. That is all. This joy that is unwholesome. He leave only joy that is wholesome. Now, there come again in the Visuddhimagga a simile of a king. Is this Visuddhimagga or some other in other texts? Where this king, one morning he wakes up and then he saw that the hair is turning white, and so he renounced, hand over his kingship to his son, and became a monk. And so he became a monk and he practiced very hard, and he came to realize like the last chapter of joy. Realize what is supposed to be realized. So he has realized, become an arahant. And there was intense bliss arising in him. And he was going around, joy, joy, he says. Oh, happiness, happiness. And then this other monk looked at him and he say, look at this king. He still remember his being a king and enjoy all the pleasures of the palace. So they were annoyed at him. And they approached the Buddha, pay respect, and sitting on one side, they spoke to the Buddha. They said, Lord, this king is a nuisance. He goes around remembering the past and always saying joy, joy, happiness, happiness, like that. And so the Buddha knows. So the Buddha say, call him. And so he came, paying respect to the Buddha. Sitting at one side, the Buddha questioned him. Is it true that you go around saying happiness, happiness? He said, yes, Lord. Indeed, it is true. Then again the Buddha questioned him. Is it true that you, remembering the past, enjoyment, going around saying happiness, happiness? Then he said, Lord, this is not true. For I have let go all that is past. For I have now given up the palace and everything that is worldly. I have realized what is to be realized. And therefore, there is this intense happiness
arises in me. And therefore, I go around saying, joy, joy, joy. So finally, even towards the end, starting from the beginning of faith, we induce our mind, we prompt our mind. Spontaneously is the mind, arises joy. From the beginning, towards the middling, as we increase and intensify the joy, and towards the end, the final liberation, the letting go of burden of this world, there arises intense joy forever.